Standing by from Kingston, New York. His name is Gerald Celente, and I want to rush to get him on the air because he'll only be on with us for about until the half hour. And right after Mr. Celente, we're going to be speaking with the Westchester County District Attorney candidate on the Republican Party and I think Conservative Party line and Independence Party line, Dan Shore. So he'll be with us in the studio later on. What's very interesting is that Mr. Celente is regarded as a forecaster. He's able to discern by recognizing certain issues and demeanor and character and conduct that occurs on the global scale, which is absolutely astronomical when you come to think about it, and he's able to distill it into a trend, so he comprehends what's going on and what's causing these trends to take place. And one of the most impactful aspect of his forecasting is that with regard to our present financial crisis in the United States and worldwide. Yet today I open up the Financial Times, and on the right-hand side, on the upper side of the paper, it says, Geithner sees signs of U.S. and global recovery. And yet on the other hand, Mr. Celente advises us of there are issues that we may not be aware of. So, good morning, Mr. Celente. How are you?
Very good. Thanks for having me, Hezzy.
Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it because I know that your time is so precious. So what is the right question for us? You know, you're on a stellar plane. We're simple people. We don't know what's going on, but we have a sense that something is wrong. So what should be the right question for us to ask?
The question everyone should ask, number one, is when government comes and says they're going to provide a solution, let's be adults about this. Show me one thing. We're political atheists. We're adults here. We don't bow to politicians or genuflect to political altars. We look at facts for the way they are, not the way we want them to be. We don't put ideological spins on things. And we're not doing anything, to gain in saying what we say, as a stockbroker or a Treasury Secretary would say. They have a purpose and an agenda. Our agenda is only putting out the information, and the motto of the Trends Research Institute is think for yourself. So let's think for ourselves for a moment. Look at the great job the government did with their Katrina quality rescue skills and how they've rebuilt those levees in New Orleans to world-class status, and how they promised us they were going to rebuild the World Trade Center bigger and better than ever. And those wars that they're waging overseas, of course, for reasons that have been founded to be untrue. Oh, what a terrific job they're doing. They say the same things over and over again. When are people going to grow up? Oh, yeah, it looks like failure. It smells like failure. It even tastes like failure. But it really isn't. Give us more money and more time, and we'll fix it. It's incomprehensible that the people that create the problems ask for more money, more resources to fix what they broke. You cannot. This doesn't take a genius. It's not even economics 101. It's economics for dummies. You can't print phantom money out of thin air based on nothing and producing practically nothing without destroying the nation's economy, and that's what they're doing. It began under Bush. It's accelerated under Obama at levels when schemes undreamed of. This is much bigger than just a financial crisis. We're looking at actually the decline of Empire America.
Is there anything that really can be done, or are we just crying in the wind? I mean, how do we engage a public that is seemingly so busy, and yet I don't understand how you could be so busy when your life is on the line that you can't pay another minute, another 10 minutes, another hour of your life to recognize what's important out there. Like you said, we've been told that the stimulus package will save us. Now, all of a sudden, we need a second stimulus. That in itself tells us that the first stimulus didn't work. And it seems like there are 1,000,001 trial balloons that are tested on us, and I guess I'm starting to believe we are just like lemmings. You know, maybe we're not as intelligent as we think. How do we get to the point where we understand a little bit more like you?
Well, you have to read, for one thing. I mean, I read for 4 hours a day, minimum.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, you read the Financial Times. I read FT every day. I read the New York Times.
Yeah.
I read USA Today. I read local newspapers.
Mm-hmm.
I read global newspapers. Now, of course, with the Internet, it's very easy. And you keep up to date. You keep making connections between different fields. That's the other thing. So when we look at something, we don't look at it economically. No. Economics is only one of the factors within it. We look at social change, political change, geopolitical. Current events form future trends. I'm in this business for 30 years. I never heard week after week, whether it's China, Brazil, Russia, India, you name the country, they're talking about replacing the dollar as a reserve currency.
That's blowing me away.
Can't people wake up and figure out what that means? It means that their dollars aren't going to be worth dimes.
Why don't we understand that? Why don't we hear that from Wall Street either? They're covering it up as well.
Why from Wall Street? Let me interrupt you. This is really a very sore topic when it comes to me. I'm of Italian descent. You know, I was born in the Bronx, lived in Yonkers. Mm-hmm. I worked in, actually, I cut my teeth working on Angelo Martinelli's first campaign in 1971. I was a assistant to the Secretary of the New York State Senate. I was involved in Westchester politics for a while. That's why I'm a political atheist.
No wonder I have an affinity to you.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I was a lobbyist in D.C. throughout the 70s, from 73 to 79. Yeah, I know what it looks like. I've been with Reagan, Connolly, a number of high-placed people, and that's why I'm a political atheist. I know what goes on. And having said that about Wall Street and being Italian descent, if the people in Wall Street, if their names were Celente, Caruso, Rossini, Abatelli, Mondavi, they'd call it the mafia. Oh, boy, would the media be jumping all over this one. But you're not allowed to call the white shoe boys crooks. They make up games. They call them credit swap fault derivatives, exotic financial instruments. How about con games?
Yes.
How about schemes? How about defrauding the public? But no, they get slaps on the wrist. Oh, they'll make an example of this Bernie Madoff. But look what today's news. The stock market went up yesterday because of Goldman Sachs profits.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. That's outrageous.
Give me $30, $40 billion, and I'll show you some profit. The people have lost their dignity. They've lost their common sense. They grovel to politicians. They clap like little children when they walk into the rooms. And they look what the people look like. They've fattened themselves up on junk food. We're the most unhealthy country in the nation, in the world. We take more prescription drugs and antidepressants than anybody combined. And so we're losing our minds. Look what the people have become. You cannot sustain an economy that's 72% consumer-based. It's simple. You can't do it. The game's over. You need a productive capacity, and the politicians sold us out. Remember NAFTA?
I do remember.
Remember
sucking sound to Mexico.
More jobs, more high-paying jobs, and increase our quality of life. Well, look at the facts. That's all we do. We don't need Wall Street. We need Main Street. We don't need Walmart. We need mom and pops.
Yes.
We don't need agribusiness. We need family farms. We don't need Monsanto. We need organic. And I say that not as hyperbole, but as a trend forecaster with the understanding that tracking trends is a knowledge of where we are, how we got here, and where we're going. And when you look back when we had mom and pops, New Rochelle, when it was filled with entrepreneurs, when we had local businesses that we were all supporting each other with, when we didn't have the Walmarts, when we didn't have the chain stores, when we didn't have these ugly malls, when we had local produce, That's the time, again, only by fact, that we were the most egalitarian nation in the world. The gap between the rich and the poor now, as we speak, is the widest in the United States than any of the industrialized nations because of the pigs of Wall Street, of the, there's Sandy Weil, this
Yes.
guy,